everyone. I am coming on today. Well, first let me introduce myself. My name is Sarah Lustig. I'm a spiritual coach and a holistic healer. I work primarily with the inner child and women who are sensitive, deep feelers, who feel things very strongly, who have very big emotions, very intense emotions, but don't know how to manage those emotions, don't know how to work with those emotions, and are often very intellectual, but very disconnected from their heart space and from their bodies. So this is, work that I absolutely love doing because, to me, working with women to empower them and break these cycles ultimately, leads to a ripple effect that the whole world is receiving healing and the whole world is healing as a result of it. So I feel very, passionate and strongly about this population in particular because so often deep feelers are really overwhelmed and are really burnt out, feel so hopeless in the world that's so chaotic right now. And when, this group of people can really ground and feel comfortable and feel safe in the world, they can go out to do tremendous things. We need the sensitive deep feelers in the world to be out in the world even more and not feeling like they have to be at home and, stay safe just to, exist in a world that's so overwhelming. But the topic that I came to talk about today is empaths and attunement and how this relates to childhood trauma. So attunement, the definition of attunement is being in harmony with. So I just want you to kind of hold this definition in the back of your mind as I talk about this today. That empaths are people who are deep feelers. They can sense the emotions and experiences of other people. So they can sense when other people are having a bad day. They can sense when people are angry, when people are sad. They can sense when people are, overwhelmed. They can sense when people have, physical things going on, like headaches, stomach aches, tension in their body. An empath can be like, oh, it's, something going on. Like it seems like you're really tense. They can pick up on those subtle signs that other people might not pick up on or might not be aware of. Empaths are, they're always attuning. They are great attuners. And they're always attuning to the people that they're with, the energies of those people that they're with. They're attuning to the words that those people are using, the body language of those people, and they're attuning to the environment as a whole. So they're picking up on the subtle shifts that might be taking place in that environment. So for example, thinking about a work setting, different work environments can be very overwhelming for empaths because of all of the different emotions and different people and their personalities and their ways of doing things in one kind of central space. Because empaths are highly perceptive and deep feelers, they're constantly picking up on all of those differences and variations in their environment. And so when people are coming and going from that environment, they're constantly reading the energies of that coming and going. It can be very distracting to be an empath because your focus is constantly being pulled in so many different directions. The empaths learn this gift, this skill of attunement early on in childhood from their caretakers, from the parents or the people who were taking care of them. This isn't always parents. It might have been grandparents or aunts and uncles, depending on the family dynamics. If oftentimes, with childhood trauma, there's dysfunctional, family dynamics, dysfunctional family patterns that are taking place. And empaths learn in those environments. Most empaths, become so from attuning to the environments of their childhood. They learn to read the dynamics to assess for safety. Attunement always happens in the present moment. And so as children, empaths were learning to attune to their present experience. And when that present experience was overwhelming, was terrifying, when adults were angry, and when adults were not managing their emotions, empaths began to take those things on emotionally, physically, energetically. They started to pick up on the sensations of their parents, the emotions of their parents, in order to understand and make sense of, these angry outbursts or these emotional explosions that their parents were having, in order to make sense of their unpredictable and unstable environment where, maybe mom or dad didn't always come home at the same time, or there wasn't always a predictable amount of money coming in. So sometimes money was good and other times there was no money. And so therefore, there wasn't as much to eat. There was kind of this scarcity mindset where you didn't always have access to things. Or maybe there was never money coming in and it was always scarcity and there was, always lack and never having enough. And so empaths really learn to attune to the emotions of their parents, to their caregivers, to what's happening with them in order to assess whether the situation, whether the dynamics are safe. If dad comes home from work in a bad mood every single day, then empaths are going to start to attune to that bad mood, and they're going to start to act in ways to try to alleviate dad being in a bad mood, alleviate dad, yelling at them or being angry at them. So oftentimes, women will take on this caregiver role to the father who's coming home and yelling and angry in order to appease him, in order to make things safe. And you'll notice, even as I was just talking about that, I smiled doing that. That's the caretaker in me who is used to smiling when there's that figure. And so, it's so ingrained in us, these conditions where we used to smile through the pain. We're used to putting on a smile in order to try to make the person that we're talking to, working with, feel safe and comfortable, to alleviate our threat, to help us ultimately feel safe and comfortable. And this is the role that empaths often take, is that they are really good attuners to people's pain. And so they can tune right into somebody's pain points. And because they have such a depth of pain, because of their own experiences with pain, they are highly perceptive to other people's pain points. And so when they tune into that pain, they want to then do something about it. They want to help that person. And so they also take on the fixer role in order to try to alleviate that person's pain, make their day better, make them feel better, make them laugh, make them feel good, give them advice that's going to put a positive spin on something instead of just being able to kind of hold the space of that person's emotion. And that's where we want to get to. So, empaths tend to come in and play that caretaker or that fixer role instead of just being able to be present with the emotion. And this is because ultimately the empath is trying to create safety within themselves. If they alleviate the pain in somebody else, then that's going to calm that person down, which means then that empath is also going to feel more calm. There's going to be less problems for them to have to solve and less for them to kind of fix so that they can relax as well. Where this, if empaths are constantly attuning to wounded people, that's problematic for a person. That's exhausting. That's overwhelming. It's going to be really hard to feel happy. It's going to feel really hard to feel content and feel at peace every single day. So, being able to be aware of this pattern within you that wants to caretake and, be present for everybody else and tend to their emotional state and make them feel better. While that is a beautiful part, and there is gifts in that, and that's what I help the women that I work with do is, work with the gifts that they have and utilize those things as gifts and not feel like they are heavy burdens, not feel like they are so exhausted every single day because they're constantly giving and giving and giving all of themselves away to other people. Being able to help empaths instead start to attune inward. That's the goal, to be able to start attune to our own inner world, your own inner world, and start to learn what's happening there. What are you trying to alleviate in other people? How can you start to alleviate that in yourself? So when you're noticing other people have anxiety and you're like, oh, I want to help them, and this is often something that empaths are not aware of. It's just natural. They naturally, because of childhood, learn to do this. feel drawn to people who are anxious, who are having a bad day, and try to make it better. And so learning that there's that natural, tendency to just always be there for other people and always hold space for other people, being able to, take a step back and pause and ask, like, is this actually for my greatest good to be able to help them? Is this actually for their greatest good for me to help them? And not just assume that other people need our help, and not just assume that other people need you to rescue them, but actually letting people be in their emotional states, letting people work through what they need to work through, and just focusing on ourselves and learning to go inward, learning to feel safe with our own emotional states and what is happening within us, and learning how to tend to these emotional states. Recharging through spending time by yourself. Empaths, because they just are such deep feelers and perceptors of their environment, they're going to feel very overwhelmed, and so they need time by themselves. You need time to unwind and, unweave what is other people's stuff from what is your own stuff. And, having quiet time for yourself, having time in nature is really, really so soothing for a highly sensitive empath who is so used to the chaos. And, that's another point that, growing up in a dysfunctional family, in a dysfunctional home with childhood trauma, there's a lot of chaos in that. There's so much chaos in that environment, and empaths become used to the emotional chaos. And as adults, they can start to seek out that emotional chaos because it's what feels normal to them and it's what feels comfortable. And they learn to attune to chaos, which is why, when there's so much chaos going on in the world, empaths also tend to feel really overwhelmed by that because they are so attuned to these cycles of chaos. It's about disconnecting from that outer chaos and tending to the internal chaos that gets triggered in those moments. And nature gives us a great space to be able to do that. Nature is, it's wide open. And so we can take these really big emotions to this outdoor space and not feel so bad about trying to contain our emotions and trying to suppress them and keep them small, because other people might not be capable of holding those emotions for us. So understanding how empaths attune to other people and how this leads to feeling overwhelmed and feeling burnt out and disconnecting from the self is really important, so that you can start to, shift this pattern within, this pattern that gets passed down through dysfunctional family cycles, and show up more for yourself, show up in a loving way, hold space for yourself and what you need, and creating that internal safety so that you don't feel the need to always be helping, fixing, or rescuing other people from their pain, when those people might need those experiences. They might need to be going through those lessons. That's their soul work. Your soul work is yours. And so being able to focus on yourself so that you can do your own soul work in the world, and you can be focused on your purpose in the world, and help people from a place of fullness, help people from a full capacity to help them, and not helping people because you feel obligated to help them, because you feel you owe them something, or because you feel that if you don't help them, they're going to feel let down by you, or they're not going to like you, they're not going to love you. Those are rooted in codependency and wounded patterns, and we want to help you operate from a aware, present, and holistic self version of you, a version who, is giving from that place of fullness. So let me know if you have any questions about this, idea of attunement and empaths and how they connect to their environment and other people. Leave me comments in the comment section and I will get back to you. I hope everybody has a beautiful day. Thank you so much for those who joined, and we'll talk soon.